If you need any more proof, well, it was Donald Trump who once said it's the job of Congress to solve the border.
The only long-term solution to the crisis and the only way to ensure the endurance of our nation as a sovereign country is for Congress to overcome open borders obstruction.
A lot of Republicans are against it because Donald Trump is against it. But here's the problem for you guys. The Border Patrol Union came out and the acting CBP chief both came out and said it's not perfect, but this is the best thing we've seen in decades.
What this would do is it would cap it to where we couldn't take anything more than 5,000. Now, this does not say that we're going to release 5,000 people into the United States. In fact, it's the exact opposite.
So are Republicans going to say that the Border Patrol Union and the acting CBP chief are wrong?
Well, look, they can have their perspective, Steve, and we've got a lot of respect.
It's their jobs, Tom.
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
Okay, so for anyone that is keeping count, that's lead Republican negotiator, acting CBP chief, and Border Patrol Officers Union, who, by the way, supported Trump in 2020, have all come out in favor of the border bill.
Some of them may have policy differences. Some of them have been very clear with me. They have political differences with the bill. They say it's the wrong time to solve the problem, or let the presidential election solve this problem. In fact, I had a popular commentator 4 weeks ago that I talked to that told me flat out, before they knew any of the contents of the bill, nothing was out at that point, that told me flat out, if you try to move a bill that solves the border crisis during this presidential year, I will do whatever I can to destroy you.
Everybody's talking about killing it before you're able to even offer amendments. That's wrong.
But because Trump wants more chaos for his re-election campaign, this is what you get. Elected officials bending the knee to a man running their party from his penthouse.
They hate what's happening at the border. They hate what's happening just generally. We're not a respected country anymore. We're laughed at all over the world. They're laughing at us. And they hate what's happening. They hate seeing it.
But let me ask you about Donald Trump. He said any Republican who votes for this deal should be ashamed of themselves. You've said you speak to him frequently and that you've discussed this deal with him, quote, at length. Is Donald Trump calling the shots here, Mr. Speaker?
And there's no better indication to how out of control this is than Fox News turning on their fearless cult leader. Exasperated by Republicans bowing to Trump on a bipartisan border bill that I think, as a Democrat, is wildly too extreme, Fox News host Steve Doocy went off the script a little bit while chatting with Majority Whip Tom Emmer and wasn't willing to allow his milquetoast response to pass without pushback.
A lot of Republicans are against it because Donald Trump is against it. But here's the problem for you guys. The Border Patrol Union came out and the acting CBP chief both came out and said it's not perfect, but this is the best thing we've seen in decades. So are Republicans going to say that the Border Patrol Union and the acting CBP chief are wrong?
Well, look, they can have their perspective, Steve, and we've got a lot of respect.
It's their jobs, Tom.
And it's our job.
And this is just their perspective thing, is a Republican strategy, minimizing everything to just a difference of opinion, even when those differences of opinion are coming from experts in the field.
Here's what Speaker Johnson said. I have seen enough. This bill is even worse than we expected. It won't come close to any of the border catastrophe the president has created.
Yeah, unfortunate that he would step out and be able to say that right away before, obviously, he had had a chance to be able to read it as well and to be able to go through it. The key aspect of this, again, is are we as Republicans going to have press conferences and complain the border's bad and then intentionally leave it open after the worst month in American history in December?
Say to the American people about that.
Well, I find it very ironic, Senator Langford's comments there, because this bill keeps the border wide open.
What this would do is it would cap it to where we couldn't take anything more than 5,000. Now, this does not say that we're going to release 5,000 people into the United States. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It says that we will hold single adults in custody. They will not be subject to release. And so that is a huge deterrent. That will deter an awful lot of people from crossing our borders illegally.
We all remember COVID, right, when their fearless cult leader was downplaying its impact in doctors' warnings because they were just differences of opinion. So instead, everyone just go and load up on Mr. Muscle at the supermarket and let's hit that thing with bleach.
And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it...
And here on an issue that they themselves have tried to say just days apart is an imminent crisis that needs fixing now, but also can wait until 2025 so Trump can try and get back in office.
So sometimes I think the American people, and the pain has to be real. The American people have to experience pain.
And we offered a solution early on and invited bipartisan work. Let's work on it to fix this. And in fact, we have right now a proposal for $14 billion so that we can put more resources to address this very situation. And we hope and are really trying to compel, in particular, some of the Republicans in Congress to participate in the solution. But sadly, we want to fix it. They want to run on it. They want a political issue to run on in November.
Well, it's working, honestly.
Well, I think that, listen, I go back to where I started. The situation is such that the system is broken and it needs to be fixed, and we have offered a solution. And real leaders ought to lead on this, meaning not play politics with it, but work with us to fix the problem.
Now, what this relentless back and forth has proven, which most who pay attention are already akin to, an open border is good for Republican politics, just as a surging economy isn't, and so they want it to nosedive. But don't worry, they'll promise that Trump can help rebuild your 401k with tax cuts to the 1%.
When there's a crash, I hope it's going to be during this next 12 months, because I don't want to be Herbert Hoover. The one president, I just don't want to be Herbert Hoover.
But Donald Trump hopes millions of Americans lose their money from their 401ks and retirement savings within the next 12 months, so he doesn't look bad.
We now have Donald Trump rooting. We saw what Larry Kudlow said. We see what the editor emeritus of the Wall Street Journal editorial page has said. The U.S. economy is the winner of 2023. It has stormed into 2024, doing better than any economy in the world, major economy in the world, and just crushing China right now. And yet you have Republicans wanting to do two things. One, Donald Trump has said he wants the economy to crash. He wants a depression to come. He wants Joe Biden to be Herbert Hoover. He wants people's livelihoods and their retirements destroyed. He said it to Lou Dobbs, so he can be elected president of the United States.
A government working to help mitigate the issue at the border right now is a government that threatens MAGA Republicans.
Why would we do anything right now to help them with that 33%? Do you believe if Joe Biden's approval rating was at 53%, we would even be talking about the border? We wouldn't be talking about the southern border. But he has to do something because he's hemorrhaging. He's bleeding.
But sure, voters are to believe that dereliction of duty is actually the most patriotic thing, because Orange Jesus says he'll fix it if he gets back in office. But on that subject, he was in office for 4 years, right? Did he fix it?
The only long-term solution to the crisis and the only way to ensure the endurance of our nation as a sovereign country is for Congress to overcome open borders obstruction.
Because let's listen to a lead Republican negotiator who Trump endorsed, by the way, Senator Langford's take on how Trump handled the border when he was in office.
I would also remind folks, during the Trump administration, we also had days of more than 4,000 people that were illegally crossing the border under the Trump administration in 2019, and they were struggling because there's gaps and loopholes in the law.
Yeah, but Senator, you know that Donald Trump, we were at a 45-year low in illegal crossings under Donald Trump, and that's just a fact. I've got the evidence to
dramatically fewer.
A 45-year low under Donald Trump in 2019.
We also had days of 3,000, 4,000, 4,500 that were happening.
But nothing like what we've seen right now. Okay, let me just
trying to figure out how to be able to implement it.
Okay, I'm sorry to talk over you, Senator. I think we might have a little bit of a delay.
And as Democrats outlined on the floor yesterday, these are all ploys to deflect from the fact that Republicans simply can't run on cooperation. So they choose chaos.
I had many people reach out to me via text message and say, what the hell are you guys doing up there?
There's an expectation that you will be able to govern, and we've just struggled with that.
I think there's a lot of squishy, Republicans that don't really represent our base or our voters.
We're here because the madcap wild goose chase to impeach Joe Biden has produced no wild geese. Even Fox News is lampooning the fact that their own expert witnesses repeatedly say President Biden did nothing wrong and there are no grounds for impeachment. More than a dozen GOP members in Biden majority districts don't want to go anywhere near that fantasy production. So the Trump-Putin mega faction, headed up by the distinguished gentlelady from Georgia, has been given this worthless trinket of a consolation prize, the opportunity to bring a slapstick impeachment drive against a cabinet member of unimpeachable integrity who has obviously committed no treason, no bribery, no high crimes, no misdemeanors, nothing indictable or even indictable, if you prefer.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.